Hello, in this video I would mainly be discussing about two topics. The first one is how you can average a list of files, and the second topic is how you can run bash scripts, and I will also briefly go through how you can use batch scripts. So let's start. So firstly, average configuration and bash scripts, the two topics. So what does averaging files mean? So for first, the thing you need to do is you need to create a list. So as you can see, by using L as the terminology for creating list, I am creating a list of all the CFG files. The snap star means snap and the number of the file. So then what I can do is in this txt file which contains all the elements, the snap files, I'm averaging those, and all the averaged configuration that I find is then stored in a file named average.cfg. So this is the general way of creating an average. Now if you want to do a modified average, which means that if you have, for example, 100 files and you want to run a loop to get all the to get the list of, for example, if you have 500 files and you want to run a loop so that you can get the average of 100 files, or if you want to get the average of the 10th every 10 consecutive files, so you can run a loop like this one. So as you can see, I am using a for loop starting from I equals to 0 until 100, and this means that I am using the 10, 20, 30 these files. And as you can see, I am using the next command echo snap $i.cfg, which means that the $i means the number, that is the exact number which I am representing the file by, and then I am storing all that inside the list.txt. So after I am storing it in the list.txt, then I can use the average to find the modified average. Another interesting concept is the moving average. So what does moving average mean? So for example, if you have 100 points that you want to find the average of, so if you have a graph, so if you plot the graph as you can see here, so the graph is a very randomized graph, and from this kind of graph the pattern is very difficult to find. So what we can do is we can find the average of 5 consecutive points. For example, at first we find the average of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we find the average from 1 to 5. Then we find the average from 2 to 6. In this way, we are finding the average of 5 consecutive points, and in each average, we are going to the next spot. So this is the concept of moving average. So as you can see, by this code we are trying to find the moving average. So we are utilizing two loops. The outer loops moves from 0 to 9960, and the plus 10 is basically used because in this ATOMSK we are only dealing with 0, 10, 20, 30 these syntaxed files. So this is your outer loop, which consists of all the CFG files that you have. And the inner loop, what it does is it moves from, so when the value of I is equals to 0 and j equals to I, which means that it will move from 0 to 50. So it will have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. In this way, you are storing 4 or 5 files, and you are storing it in list.txt. Then when you are finding the average, you are finding the average of that 5 files only. So in the next configuration, what you will do is the value of j will be 10. So you will now work from 10 to 60. In this way, you will find the moving average. So this concept is very important if you have a very randomized point set. Next, what you can do is you can duplicate the auxiliary property in case of the averaged files that you have, and you can also remove selective properties from the averaged files that you have. The next concept is using bash scripts. So it is a very important concept. So what does bash script means? So it is basically an executable script which you can run directly. So you are storing, sorry, So what you are doing here is you are storing the text file in a file named bash, or an executable script named bash, which are known as bash scripts. So you are basically storing a command there. So when you call the bash script, which is renamed as aluminum.sh. So what you need to remember here is that all bash scripts end with .sh. So when you are running this command bash aluminum.sh, it will run the file named aluminum.sh. So inside the aluminum.sh, you are writing the code for ATOMSK, that is ATOMSK create FCC 4.046 aluminum XSF. So when you write this code, it will automatically run the ATOMSK and this create everything. So this is very helpful if you are working with a larger code, or if you are working with a huge number of configuration. So in that case, you do not need to write the ATOMSK codes every time in the shell, in the PowerShell or in the ATOMSK shell. You can just write a script and then you can directly run that script with the help of bash. So as you can see in the last example here, that I am trying to run loops with the help of bash. So if you had to do this with the help of ATOMSK in a shell, you needed to run each line separately, and the syntax that you use in ATOMSK shell, it is also very difficult because you need to be careful of a lot of things. So when you are using a .txt file to save in a bash executable script, it is much more easier to handle. So this bash is mainly used for Mac OS kind of environment, or a Linux environment, but a majority of us works in a Windows environment. So for Windows environment, we normally use batch scripts. So this is an example of a batch script that I used for my one of my research work. So I will explain this script in the end of this tutorial, because there are a lot of concepts that I have used here. For example, orientation, how I can generate polycrystals, and what are the things that we need to do for polycrystals. But I will not go through all of those now. This is basically to show you that you can use batch scripts instead of bash scripts when you are running this kind of executable in a Windows setting. So this is all for today. Thank you.